That ad felt like Kamala Harris was still president. That ad, which is a flop online, we'll see how it does in the real world. I feel like culturally there's a new era again. People know that America will return to greatness as it did under Trump's first term. If I'm sounding like a partisan sycophant, I don't mean to be. I just think the striking difference in cultural tone between Trump and Harris, who by any genuine measure was a communist and used communist phraseology and communist goals. It couldn't have been a starker choice joining us now to talk about this, is one of our favorite thinkers who joined us on election night. Dr. James Lindsay is the publisher of the website newdiscourses.com. I love to follow him on Twitter because he applies a philosophical take to the problems of the day, and he is an expert, I believe, on communism and its 21st century variants. He joins us today from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Dr. James, great to see you again. Maybe I'm too effusive and too partisan, but I really feel like the cultural temperament of the entire world changed on election night. I just think the possibilities are different and the norms are different in the whole world. What do you think about that? Is that me just emoting or being solipsistic, or did the whole world change?
I'll give you a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. A lot of yes. There's a definite feeling that there's a new day in America and a new day rising around the world. The business world, as you pointed out, responded immediately and vigorously. The stock market went crazy. There's an awful lot of hope and optimism and kind of high energy. I was actually, of all places, I went to Los Angeles, California, to Beverly Hills right after the election, the day after the election. And even there was a large amount of positivity in, the heart of Los Angeles. So something has changed. But on the other hand, there's this tendency for people to say everything has changed and we've gone post woke is dead, woke is over. The American people spoke as though the rest of the world doesn't matter. And it's now over because we won an election. And that's not reflective of reality at all. I'm seeing them double down everywhere that they have power and probably triple down everywhere that they have a monopoly of power. The institutions are still woke. We might be able to clean a lot of it out of the federal government and we might be able to do some damage to it. But so far, they're doubling and tripling down. And like you pointed out with that very bizarre Jaguar commercial, the attempt to force this culture down our throat has not stopped yet. Even in a business world that's looking at a Trump presidency and a new dawn of a different America, they're still trying to ram this down our throats. And we can bet that that's still connected to their ESG scores, which haven't gone anywhere. Larry Fink famously said that he didn't care what the outcome of the election would be because it didn't affect him one way or the other.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, he really is one of the supervillains here. He's on the board of the World Economic Forum, and he is the one who has infused politics throughout America using his power as an investor. It's funny you say that. You're right. I spent some time on campus in Ottawa recently, and they couldn't be deeper into woke. I mean, the election of the U.S. president doesn't change a thing at Carleton University or any other university in Canada, other than maybe the resistance has more energy. They have to resist him harder. They have to fight against him harder. I suppose so many institutions, the new Disney film, the new, I think cultural institutions that have been colonized, they're not giving up. They didn't lose an election, did they?
No, they didn't. And it's really interesting. You bring up the resistance to Trump in Canada, and you're going to see them have to double down because they're fully aware that there's going to be a ripple effect throughout the entire world culturally, like you were starting to say earlier. It's going to ripple through Canada. It's going to ripple through Europe. It's already rippling through Asia. I saw some of the funniest videos of pro-Trump parades in South Korea and in Tokyo, Japan. So our allies around the world are going to get a giant boost of morale from this Trump win. And of course, they're going to have to fight even harder in countries like Canada to try to keep their grip on power as those populations take inspiration and heart from this.
again, part of the appeal of Trump is the entertainment factor. First of all, his personality is naturally, he's got a huge charisma, big personality. He's an entertainer, whether that came naturally or it was honed through his hit TV shows and his beauty pageants. The guy knows how to tell a story visually. And whether it was the garbage truck moment or the McDonald's drive-through moment or just his style entering the UFC like a conquering Roman Caesar or something. The guy's got a panache, and it feels so. It's over the top but authentic at the same time. Everyone knows that's him. But he's got this entourage now. He's got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is aesthetically and in terms of ideology, very different. But Trump says, no, you're part of the team. You're going to be the boss of Health and Human Services and go make a fuss amongst, the food industry and the vax industry. And he's got Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. He's saying, go destroy bureaucracies. Like, it's not just Trump this time. He's got this sort of crew. And even just visually hanging out with them, tootling around on his jet. But I think that who he's surrounding himself with, I think they're radicals in a good way. Like I think they're a truly radical choice, which is a war against these permanent institutions. It's a war against the deep state. Every one of his cabinet picks, in my view, is a destroyer of the bureaucracy, not a leader of it, a counterweight to the bureaucracy. None of them will be loved or approved by the staff they will run. Like it's such a declaration of war against the battle's not over. Trump won the election, battle's over. No, the real battle's begun. That's how it looks to me. What do you think of all those things?
No, I think that's about right. I'm always a little bit wary, of course, of anybody that's too close to power. And this is a lot of power. And I've controversially made the remark on Twitter just to remind folks that nobody actually voted for Elon Musk, which turned out not to have been the wisest of statements to make publicly. But it is a cool team. They do have a cool vision. And the goal with Elon Musk specifically and Vivek to clean out the bureaucracy with this Doge is a extremely exciting development that's long overdue. That's stuff Milton Friedman was calling for decades ago, and it's about time that we actually did it. And I think that actually after his experience in Twitter, besides his experience running extraordinarily successful super high-tech companies, I think Elon Musk actually will bring a lot to the table on that endeavor. Most of his cabinet picks I'm pretty happy with. Some of them I wish he could have done others, but I think your assessment is right, that he's giving a declaration of war to the established federal government of the United States and saying we're going to make some changes and we're going to make some big changes and we're going to make them right now. And so the government is on notice. I think they know they're on notice. It's a little bit scary because what I've noticed myself is an awful lot of people seem to have forgotten that Joe Biden is still president. In fact, I think you even said Kamala Harris is president earlier.
Yeah,
I think everybody forgot that their administration is still in power, that Joe Biden still exists, that Kamala Harris still exists. I saw on Twitter somebody said, I've never seen a political character disappear faster than Kamala Harris. And I'm like, she's the sitting vice president. What are we talking about? Yeah. What's going on over there? So this administration that is currently in power, not the Trump incoming administration, is aware of this. And so they're trying to do a lot of things, as much damage as possible. They're trying to secure the federal apparatus and bureaucracy against Trump and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and the Department of Government Efficiency. They're also trying to ram through as many judges in a kind of a very controversial political war, ram through as many leftist judges as they can. And for whatever reason, the Republicans in the U.S. Senate right now are not actually helping the matter, failing to show up to vote, to block really some bad choices. So it's a tricky time. And I'm always the guy that has to pour cold water on stuff. I'm hoping we don't get caught up too much in this ebullient spirit and therefore miss the moment that we have 2.5 months still of whatever regime is actually running the show. Biden is the name holder. Harris is in there somewhere, and that they're going to take advantage of the signals to run heavy countermeasures to the greatest extent of their power, which remains immense.
You know, you're so right. And you have not mentioned the Ukraine war, where suddenly the lame duck president, or was it the vice president, or is it some other force we don't know, has decided at this 11th hour, Trump's talking about peace. And both Zelensky and Putin have reacted to that. Actually, both of them positively. Zelensky sounds somewhat grudgingly, but the other day he said peace will come sooner under Trump. And that is a blessing to Ukrainian young men who will not be put through the meat grinder. So the world is reacting. And what did Biden or whoever the mystery leader is, went further than ever before and said that the Ukrainians can use highly precise, advanced, long-range missiles. The British, I think it's called Storm Shadow missile, and the American missile called ATACMS, which is an acronym. To give new weapons and to push as much for a final battle. I don't know, is it an escalation? Is it an attempt to actually start World War III, God forbid? Like, this goes to your point. In the next 2 months, insane things will happen with this ungoverned lame duck presidency, whoever's running it. Like, are you worried about war? Are you worried about Anthony Blinken or whoever's running the war in Ukraine provoking a response from Putin that gets out of control?
Somewhat. They're genuinely doing some kind of a provocation. I'm still fairly well convinced that the majority of what this administration does that's in any way proactive is theater. And so I'm more concerned about what they're going to do with the illusion of war, whether one manifests or not, than the actual war. But Putin is not going to sit there and take this. And he said he's not going to sit there and take this. And he's threatening, although I think it's mostly saber rattling and hope it's saber rattling, that he is willing to change the rules of engagement regarding nuclear weapons should these kinds of attacks against Russian infrastructure continue. And so I don't think it can be seen as anything other than a very dangerous provocation and maybe a desperate maneuver to try to create so much calamity and chaos on the world stage that it disrupts whatever it is that Trump wants to do here, both domestically and in foreign policy, and prevents him from being able to accomplish a lot of his goals, but also that it may even come to the point where it serves as some kind of pretext to try to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power. And I say that acknowledging that, you know, the happiest Joe Biden of his entire life was sitting there with President Trump the other day saying there would be a peaceful transfer of power. And they both looked like they were very amenable to that. But, you know, if they can gin up big trouble on the world stage, they could have a situation that disrupts Trump's first 100 days pretty significantly. And they know that if Trump is going to really clean out that federal bureaucracy, those first 100 days are extremely important. The clock is ticking. That's the only time he's going to have kind of a clear runway controlling all of the government to try to get his agenda through, because the Congress has to start thinking, the representatives have to start thinking about their reelection not terribly long after. It's a 2-year cycle. And that first 100 days is therefore crucial. And if they can disrupt that by creating total chaos on the world stage, that's to their advantage.